This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, and welcome to Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is the show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. One of the things I love about doing this show is being able to offer you many different views on how you can live your dream life. From the dream experts who show you how to use your nighttime images for greater awareness and problem solving, to the many self-development advocates who provide programs and techniques for everything from confidence boosting to improving your health, success, and even parenting skills. But on a selfish note, what's really fun for me is getting the opportunity to meet some incredibly interesting people. And that's the case with my guest today, Claudia Monacelli. Claudia's life has taken her from her roots in New Jersey to her current home in Italy, where she's worked as a professor, author, and interpreter, with some governmental work sprinkled in between that. But what really interests me, and why I wanted her to be on this program today, is the other side of her life as a psychic medium, intuitive, and energy healer. How did she get there? Well, let's find out. Welcome to Dream Power Radio, Claudia.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It is my pleasure. And Claudia, as I said in the intro, your life has taken you on many paths. Yeah. Would you say you're living your dream life?
Well, yes. Actually, there's a little change in the introduction because my origins, my roots weren't New Jersey. That was an adopted home because I was born in Rome, but I was only 6 months when my parents decided to go to the United States. And literally, I came out right before we went to Ellis Island. We went into New Jersey, New York, the greater New York area, and going and living there has changed the world for my parents. It was difficult at first, but it just changed everything. And of course, when you're so young, and it was the 60s, and in the 60s, and you could remember this, money really grew on trees. You couldn't do anything wrong. Markets were booming and everything was new for us. As you look at the world in any case through children's eyes. And at one point, my dream brought me to Italy because I was studying to be an interpreter. I went to a year in university there and I met my current husband. And the dream that continues to feed my passions, I use pleasure as a signpost. If something's not right, if my days are really dreary, there is something deadly wrong. I'm a woman who's born on April 1st. You can imagine the nature of that. But what I like about the life is the challenge. And I like to turn that challenge into an opportunity. And yes, I did have a very big turning point in my life. I'm a university professor, and in the beginning of my career, I was working for the State Department and traveled all over the United States, and then decided to move to Italy, and then went into the university system teaching simultaneous interpreting. And I saw then you put a couple of letters after your name, you published a couple of books, you get your tenured position, and then in this male-dominated institution, I saw men who had no letters after their name and had maybe just one book, if any, they were promoted. And just that didn't sit right with me. So I thought, okay, this institution is inviting me just to do my research and not to do anything else, leave my power aside. And that's when I got into the business. It's a third generation business, let's say, of the occult. My mother was a card reader. And my dad told us when nighttime stories, he would tell us how in seances, when he used to be in India, how the table rose and he said, I swear to you, girls, it would go up in the air, up in the air. And so he had a lot of that going on in his life. And that's how I started. I dusted off my hypnotherapy expertise and got into past life regression, channeling. I'm a trance channeler. So it's difficult. I tell somebody I'm a university professor and then I'm a psychic medium and they say, oh, come on. They start, you're kidding.
Is it hard for you to bridge those two worlds?
Well, yes, in the way that when I first started with this YouTube channel, that I just did it for fun, I changed my name. I used the name Christelle Martinet, an online persona with the same initials. And I only showed my hands because I was so afraid of students finding me on YouTube. And then after a couple of years, someone said to me, it was a consultant, he said, look, you have to go live. You have to show your face. I mean, this is YouTube. This is a video. This is a medium where you have to be right up there. And I did, because I'm very camera shy. I just don't like to take pictures. I couldn't imagine that. But I saw my subscribers boom, the numbers, almost as if I were stripping online. And I guess that they want to put a face to the hands and see what you're like. And that changed the way I did my work. I do lives, usually on a Saturday when I feel up to it, if the energy is good. But if I feel negative energy around, I will just, upload a video, do it, pre-record it and put it up. But yeah, that has really changed the way I interact with the world, really. And I saw that there's power. There is a sort of power harnessed by spirituality that can help you do something much greater than write academic articles that no one reads or academic books that no one reads, and that's how it changed. And I was actually writing a book and I was sending it to my publisher in Amsterdam, academic publisher. And I said, look, I'm writing a book on power, women of power. And I sent them up 10 pages of the proposal. Oh, it's great. Come on. When can you have the first chapter done for us? We'll publish. Then I thought, no. If I do this, it's got to have some kind of a readership. And so time passed and I ended up sending it to the American market and changing the target audience and obviously the writing style and what was women of power based on TV series in American TV series with women protagonists who were powerful. It became the magic of pleasure seeking, also using TV series where women are depicted as powerful and using archetype psychology. So we have a chapter of the goddess and, I choose a role of a series, and then we have the queen and the queen executive. And so it is fun. It becomes more fun as I do it and more difficult, really, because when you have a target audience, you have to learn to speak like them, to them. Everything is Instagrammable. And the words that you choose are not the tight-knit, dense text of an academic paper. And so that was a challenge as well. And actually, it was the reason why I started my podcast, because I thought I've got to read this stuff out loud to see if it sounds okay, if it's going to fly. And so every episode was a part of chapter 2, another part of chapter 2. And literally it went on that way. And then I got the book well underway and I thought, no, I'm going to have to open to the world. I want to learn something. Let me get other people on the show and meet some new things, learn new things. And I really embrace what you said, because the greatest thing about this medium is that you can, I don't want to say you can talk about anything. There's a theme, and yours is dreams. They are dreams. And as you were talking, I was thinking, oh yeah, that's what I always used to tell my children. Dream big. You have to dream big, really big, or else you're not going anyplace, And that is the name of the game, because it's one of the laws of attraction. If you dream small, you get small. If you dream big, you get big. And that's how it went. Even starting with my career at the State Department as an interpreter, I thought, oh, they're not going to pick me. And I had, of course, they give you tests and they give you tons of tests, and from this language to the other language and this modality and the other modality. I could still remember the texts that they gave me. One was on pineapple plantations in Hawaii. Another text was being a guide at the White House. And I was leading a tour of foreigners who came to visit the White House, and I had to give them the tour and what was the most important thing to say to them. And another text was about Robert Kennedy's family and all of the difficulties and the hardships that they went through. And even some of the phrases I could remember, those things that really hit home when you're doing it. And then I got the call, I got an assignment, and that's the way it went. And that was where the fun, the challenge really began. And dreams, I guess, the bigger you dream, the bigger the challenges are, really. And that, for me, is the best part.
Well, it's like I say, when you stop dreaming, you stop living, because you're not going anywhere. If you're stagnant, nothing happens, and you'll just wither away.
Yeah. And we don't have to sleep to dream, do we? There is a thing called daydreaming. That's one of my favorite activities.
Absolutely. You go read the story of Thomas Edison, and he was notorious for taking, call little cat naps or daytime. That was when he got his biggest inspirations.
Yeah.
Those times when he was able to let his mind rest and let his subconscious take over. But I want to get back to something that you had said earlier, that you came from a family who had psychic abilities, and then you rediscovered it later. Do you think that we all have psychic abilities?
Oh, sure. Everybody does. One of the typical things that happens is you think of someone and they call you or they message you, and that happens every day. Your thought patterns attract things that you desire. And the psychic ability especially gets stronger in relation to the emotions you have. And why I say this, you can typically think of a mother whose son is at school, or children are at school, and something happens to that child. The mother feels it immediately, and just in the gut, literally. Intuition, and it's linked to the first chakra. It's blood, it's belonging, it's tribal, and it's so very strong. And the greater the bond, the greater the intuition. This happens when their bond is so strong. They could literally smell the person next to them when they're not in that person's in their presence. And people do dream and have premonitions in their dreams, and they won't know it until it happens, either months later or years later. This happens often. I'm sure it's happened to you as well.
Yeah. So do you pay attention to your nighttime dreams?
Oh God, yes. I have my journal book right next to my bed every time, as soon as I wake up. And it's difficult that when it's really articulated with details and long, I get my recorder out. I get the recorder and record my voice so I won't forget while I'm writing.
It's hard to remember all the details when you have one of those long, epic dreams.
Yeah, the colors, the smells, the volumes, the distances between rooms or elements, water, fire, air are there. And, it's very complicated, but so interesting and so revealing.
Really. What do you think you've learned from your dreams that you might not have otherwise been aware of?
Oh, that's a bag full. We would need at least a couple of hours. But the thing that I have noticed the most, that I've learned the most, is that, yes, there are premonitions. They are premonitions, but they are also symbolic, and they are parts of you that you need to unravel and look at and analyze. And there are dreams that do also suggest your spiritual development. Where are you on that ladder of development? There may be dreams that are very complicated, but they're airy, their volumes are large, they're light, there's a party involved, and all of the people who you may have had a grudge with are there, but they're dancing and singing, and this is a harmony. This is harmony, and this is an elevation of the spirit, of the vibration of the spirit. And the dreams, let me give you this example. My sister was a hairdresser, so I would say to her, Julia, I didn't feel so good today, so I dressed up really well. No, Claudia, she said, you got to get a haircut. And she was a hairdresser. And, I'm a fashionista. If I said to you, Debbie, she said, well, tell me your dream. I'll tell you who you are, So everybody's niche, everybody's passion is what they come up with first. I work with the voice. So I say, open your mouth and talk a little bit. I'll tell you who you are. But dreaming is in the subconscious world and the subconscious mind. And because of that, it's so revealing. But I believe, and maybe you could second this or confirm this, there are certain things in my dreams that I just can't understand. I just can't understand. Sometimes all the water, and sometimes the water's so dirty, and those huge garages with so many cars and pools of water on the floor, recurring dreams, the flying at night in a 2-seater plane at 3 a.m, taking off and coming back. And it was my dream world. That was my recurrent dream when I was a child.
I tell you, one of the fun things for me is diving into a dream that seems on the surface incomprehensible, and working with it and spending time with it, and then getting so much valuable information from it. That doesn't always happen like that second, like you write down your dream. Right. Oh, here's what it means.
Right. Sure.
Okay. Sometimes it takes time, you've got to meditate on it or really dig down to figure out, what does this symbol mean to me?
Right.
To apply to my life. And then you concentrate on it, then all of a sudden you'll have that aha moment.
Yeah.
And there might be that day, it might be the next day, it might be a month later. All of a sudden you think about that dream you haven't thought about. It's like, oh, that's what it's telling me.
Yeah.
And, that's the greatest satisfaction. We're going to go into this a bit more, but we have to take a short break now. We are speaking with Claudia Monacelli about dreams and psychic abilities and all kinds of instances of life. And we'll be right back. When is a car not a car? When it shows up in your dreams. Cars are one of the most common dream symbols. If you don't know why you're dreaming about cars or any image, it can leave you confused or scared. But that dream could be a solution to a pressing problem, or an insight into a solution that's been bugging you for years. Go to my website and sign up for a complimentary discovery session, and I'll help you understand why a dream is a terrible thing to waste. Go to thedreamcoach.net for more information.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're speaking with Claudia Monacelli about psychic abilities, dreams, and all sorts of things. So, Claudia, I believe you call yourself a soul therapist.
Yes. I'm very proud of that. And using my psychic abilities as well, the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records is, I'd like to say it's a metaphor. It's a very serious metaphor that Edgar Cayce started talking about. Probably someone before him also had talked about. And what is it conceived as? A huge library, a store of information of all persons' souls, from the inception of their soul to their current life. It's possible for us as readers to be able to, in a soul reading, to pinpoint the inception of the soul, when it was created, how many lifetimes ago, what soul group of origin it came from, the characteristics of that soul group of origin, and analyze each past life from that time to the current life. But since they can be as many as 200, or the oldest soul I found is 245. So what I look at is the critical lifetimes where negative decisions they have made have caused them to bring forth negative attachments. and making their life today miserable. And that's why then they come to me with patterns that are repeating, negative patterns. They can't keep a job. Their companion seems to leave them after a certain period of time. And this happens over and over again. And that's what it's there for. And we clear this. We get rid of these negative attachments. I mean, it's very detailed. It takes me days to work on. People order it and I take a week, because to get this information, I wouldn't call it meditation. I don't like to use the word meditation. I like to use concentration, but I trance concentrate. I literally go in, get the information I need, and then put it on their protocol. But it takes time, because I just can't stay 12 hours in that state and get the information that I need. So I do it a bit at a time and take a week to do that. It gives people a huge shift in their energy, and remarkable shift. And I tell them to come back when they feel the need, when something happens. For example, if they again start seeing patterns of strange things, strange, odd things that wouldn't normally happen to them. And we take a look at it. Maybe they crossed the same person, or got in an anger rage over something, or had been sent to the hospital for who knows what. Hospitals are breeding ground for a lot of negative energy too. This is why COVID today has caused so much change in the way energy moves from one person to the next, from one country, from one area of the world to the next. There's a lot of negative energy moving around without rhyme or reason either. There are carriers of negative energy where energy is brought through them. And that since COVID, this is what I've seen as a change with respect to the past.
How do we get rid of negative energy?
Well, that's what I do. That's the therapy that I call soul therapy. Is you use ritual patterns and prayers and vocations, and target your language to remove certain curses, implants, so many different things that could happen. Ghosts, hungry ghosts, viral entities that inhabit your body that need reckoning. And I was just talking about this the other day with a colleague of mine who does the same work. And I was saying to her, when some certain things happen to me, I know that I need cleaning, right? We go and we clean each other off. And I said, isn't it odd how one little chance encounter that you have with someone who gives you the creeps, there's something off. But I have an inquisitive mind. So I sit and I stay in their presence and I talk to them and I try to understand and get an impression or a feeling of their aura or what's behind. And inevitably, then something occurs. And she said, you have no idea. She said, the people who work are light workers are the most targeted by negative energies, and you're exposed. And this is why I save in YouTube, on my YouTube channel. If I go live, I have to be careful with the energy that's there. Before I go live, I have a certain ritual that I do after I leave and turn off the computer. My computer was also targeted, as well as a few devices that I have near me. It's done energetically. That's how it's done. Yeah.
Well, getting back to working with people in their past lives, when you uncover a pattern for a person, is explaining that that's what's going on enough to get rid of that pattern, or do they have to do more work?
Well, I do past life regression when something like that happens. And typically that is a hypnosis. The person is held under hypnosis and they regress, guided by me, and they themselves come out and understand their issues. Usually it takes 1 to 3 sessions to complete the, we can call it healing. Let's give you an example. I had a client in Paris who was always wanted to be a writer since she was a little girl. And she was telling me about her parents and how she had this terrible relationship with her dad. And she had come initially to me because of a relationship that she had, and there was a pattern with this man. And then she decided at one point, we went through soul therapy. And then at one point she said, look, there's this, I need I need to do past life regression because alone, I cannot rid myself of certain things that I do on the job all the time. And we went into hypnosis and we did it twice. And the second time, she regressed to an area of Southeast Asia. And in that part of the regression, she realized, she came out of the hypnosis saying to me, it was my father. It was my father who refused to let me write and to allow me to express myself. And then, of course, she went on to mend the bridges with this person, but she was blocked. She wanted to be a writer. She was a civil servant. And then she did start writing a blog. And then she went on to write articles for a local paper. But it's something that you guide other people to do. And that's what's so fresh about it and so clean in inverted commas, because they themselves awaken on their own and understand, and they're awake when they do it. Hypnosis is a state where they're awake and they understand. It's like having an epidural where you are awake and you feel the birth. They know what they said. And of course, we record the session and you listen again and you can hear. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. I've had it several times, and it's remarkable what you do and what you say. And I know it seemed like I was, all three times I was on an operating table and I was looking up and I was talking and saying things I would have never said to anyone. And then many people wake up after and cry or become disgusted because they hadn't understood before that. It's fascinating, really. It's fascinating. It's so delicate a process, really is.
I would think so. And you said earlier that we all have like many, 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 many past lives. So when somebody is dealing with an issue, how do you get them to go back to the past life that's going to get them to the root of the issue?
Well, it's not that they can clear the issue themselves there. They understand it, and then they change their actions in the present life. Past life regression through hypnosis will favor that process, will allow them to guide them, because I don't know what past life Miss X had. She could have been a thief. She could have been a goddess. She could have been a surgeon. She could have been the prostitute. But I know that through hypnosis, you'd have to learn a little bit about how hypnosis works by contextualizing people's presence in places and then asking them to report to you what they see, what they smell, what they feel, what they hear. And then that from there, take it one step at a time. If you ever have the opportunity, you should try and find, maybe word of mouth, find someone who does that and jump in and try it.
It does sound fascinating. And Claudia, I have so many more questions to ask you, but we're just about out of time. I just have one final question.
Yes.
How can people find out about you and your work?
Okay, I have a couple of websites. The one where I do this type of work is my name, Christelle Martinet, www.christellemartinet.com. And my Instagram is The Magic of Pleasure Seeking, which is the name of my book. And Twitter, the same thing, Magic of Pleasure. You'll find me in anywhere as Claudia Monacelli, AKA, also known as Christelle Martinet.
Well, Claudia, thank you so much for being
Debbie.
on Dream Power Radio today.
Thank
We've
you.
been speaking with soul therapist, author, and all-around Renaissance woman, Claudia Monacelli. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If you have, please tell all your friends, follow me, and drop a positive review on your podcast site. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.